Hi, welcome to CoderDojo Virtual Edition. My name is Lori. We're going to continue today working on the website that we've started using HTML and CSS. A couple of sessions ago, I introduced you to Glitch, which is a software that allows us to write our code, but it puts some of the code in automatically for us. For instance, if we enter an angle bracket, it will enter the closing tag so that we won't forget to put it in. If we make an error, leaving off some important part of the syntax, the Glitch program will identify this with a red dot, making it easier to find places where we might have made an error or omission. When I first introduced you to CSS, we are doing our CSS coding right within our HTML page. Today, I'm going to demonstrate how we can use a completely separate page in the Glitch program to put all of our stylized CSS rules, keeping it separate from our HTML code and therefore making our code look a little less lengthy and complex. All of our stylized elements will be in a completely different page within the Glitch program. I'm going to take you right back to the Glitch program where we were writing our HTML code. You'll recall that my website was about the Kingston Frontenac Public Library, and I was practicing with all of the tags and elements that we've already learned. We did learn that in order to use CSS to style our website, we had to enter the code under a style tag in the head section of our HTML code. And while that is the case, the beauty of the Glitch software is that we can do all this on a separate page. Sometimes it seems a little intimidating to see your code go as long as this, and trying to find different areas can be challenging. So now I'm going to show you how we can take this whole style section out and put it on a separate page where we only enter our style tags. Here we are back on my HTML website on the Glitch program. So I have started fresh with a brand new website because the other one was getting awful long, and trying to demonstrate individual elements and tags is difficult when there's so much script. So I started over, did a smaller website here. You can see it's called Charleston Lake, Ontario, which is a lake near the Kingston area. I have all the elements and tags that we've already talked about. Now, as opposed to going up here to the head section where we wrote style and then we entered some CSS rules, we're going to leave this page. And in the Glitch program, all we have to do is go to this left-hand margin here and click style.css. Once I put these tags in, I wanted to stylize. So Glitch has already written in the variety of font families that will be used in this website. This simply means that the browser will try to load Helvetica. If that's not available on a person's browser, they will try Arial, And if that's not available, they will go with sans serif. This we don't have to worry about because Glitch puts it in for us. As well as that, Glitch entered the font style for my H1 heading. I didn't put this in, but you can see over here that the font is italicized, and so it's telling me that. Now, if we're going to change the color of H1, we'll write color, colon, I'm going to say green, and semicolon. And there, I've changed the color. I'm going to go through and change the color of each of my headings, and then I'll show you what the code looks like. You can see here that now I have changed all of the heading H1 to H5 tags, font style, and color. Here's the CSS rules for color. I have learned that the Rgb color code seems to be the most common method used in coding to describe colors. I have used the color wheel that I talked about in a previous recording to look for colors that appealed to me. You can see that here I have a very, very light background color. And then I did go back and put that border, bottom border and right border on the H1, 2, and 3. Although RGB does seem to be the most common way to identify colors, some of the sites give you a larger range of gradients, etc., using the hex code. So I've used a combination of both, and I imagine over time I would settle on one or the other. I have noticed that I have gotten much better at doing this HTML code and applying the CSS rules with practice. Continuing to work on the same website tended to get me bogged down in errors. And I found when I started fresh, it gave me practice in writing the code, practice in applying the CSS rules, and got rid of a lot of the errors I had in the previous code. Glitch does highlight errors. I'll show you right here. If I take that angle bracket off, it does give me an error code. Special characters must be escaped, but it still can be difficult to find them. So I find by starting from square one and doing a whole new website, even if it's smaller, going back and reapplying the code to do a table. It's hard to remember all these things unless you practice them. So that's what I've been doing, and I'm sure you'll find as well. When you practice, you'll get better at it. To demonstrate how we can use classes to apply to multiple elements, I'm introducing a block quote. A block quote simply means it's text that you would like to have indented. So here I did a block quote tag and a closing tag, and inside that I wrote, check out this sunset. This is where I'm going to put a photograph. So you can see down here, it is indented, and that's all block quote means. But you'll notice that this text is defaulting to black. And if I want it to also be gray, like I've changed all of the text here, I have to go once again inside the opening tag, right in here, class equals quotation marks, gray, quotation marks, angle bracket. And then when we go back to the CSS side, where we had p dot gray and it changed our paragraphs to gray, we're going to remove the p and simply have dot gray. And you'll see that our block quote has now turned gray. And what that has done is anything that we say class equals gray, now that element will turn gray. So it's not just the p tags, but any tag that has the class gray will now change to gray. Classes to a single element. I'll demonstrate that using the underline tag. So we'll make a rule here in the CSS section. We're going to call it dot underline because we want the name to be reflective of what it is we're doing. We'll do our curly brackets, and an underline is called a text decoration, our colon. Now we're going to say underline. So dot underline, here's our rule, text decoration, colon, underline. We'll go back into the HTML, and I think I'd like to have this block quote underlined. So I'm going to go right up here where we already have class equals gray. Inside the quotation marks, space, and now I'm just going to say underline, and there we are. Our block quote is underlined. We can try it somewhere else. How about up here? Let's get this paragraph. It's really just a statement about Charleston Lake. We'll see if it looks good being underlined as well. And here you can see that this paragraph is now underlined as well. That's it for this session. Next session, I will simply be introducing a number of commands that you will be able to experiment with in your CSS. By now, you should have a very clear idea as to how to use HTML, and using Glitch, do your CSS in a separate page. You know, however, this could be on your HTML page up here in the head section, but Glitch allows us to do it on a totally separate page, and it makes it so clear that all of this code is about styling. So we'll see you in 2 weeks' time. Practice with your HTML and CSS. I will be introducing lots of new commands that you can use to really spruce up your website.